automatically scheduling your rate increases.
I'm Jim Ross. He's Matt VanHorn. And this is 3 Mile Domination, where we talk about anything and everything regarding the world of self-storage.
Okay, thanks for joining us for 3 Mile Domination show. This is Jim. How's it going, Matt?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing good. Let's just keep on the trend here with our series of videos on revenue management.
Okay.
And we're gonna break this up into small videos here, and this one is the all important for revenue management, and that is raising rates and how I do that smart, how I do that efficiently, do it on a schedule, that kind of thing. So I want to kind of break that down, and of course, all of our properties we've done it for a number of years now. Is this really just the simplest way and most effective way that I've done it, and you've done it for as well for so long, is making sure the rate increases are done on an automatic schedule. Like we've mentioned before, a lot of the softwares now, have that capability built in, so to utilize it. So
they all do, I think now.
What's that?
I think they all do now.
Yeah, exactly.
Or at least the major ones.
Yep.
I can't think of one that doesn't actually.
No, yeah, exactly. So I want to kind of go in more detail here on doing the automatic rate schedules, and kind of there's nothing that's exactly the way you have to do it specifically, but some of the ones that are out there, more the well-known REITs, they're kind of what their schedule is and their rate increases, just to give people an idea of a good structure to kind of follow.
Well, I think if I'm going back, we'll go on memory here on some of these things, but I think number one, it's changed. What's going on in the last couple of years is the greatest Wild West rate increase thing I've ever seen in my time in 16 years. So this cycle has been, we went through that cycle of the kind of, we get the historical perspective of how we got here, but I mean, we went through the real estate crisis. There were no construction loans for self-storage. They're starting to come back now, but there hasn't been development in 7 years, give or take. I'm not saying in every market, but in a lot of markets. Yeah. So a lot of that excess space that was there got filled up or is filled up now. So without extra supply or extra competition, it's the wild, wild west when it comes to rates right now. I still think you have to be careful. I still think you have to do it correctly. I still don't think you can do whatever you want. But I've seen things that I've not seen in 16 years. I know Extra Space used to do, I believe it was 7% or every 9 months, I believe it was. And CubeSmart was doing 6% per year, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, for Extra Space, if I remember right, I think they had like 7% after, I think it was 6 months after they moved in.
Right, and then every 9 months
after. 9 months after that.
Right.
Yep.
And the same thing with CubeSmart, I think it was like 6% after 6 months and then every year after.
Yep.
Something like that. And, they stayed within that percentage. And I know, if I remember correctly, when I was listening to a discussion with the guy who handles Extra Space's revenue management, their head of revenue management, and then they stop at, I think it was 125% of street rate. If the customer gets a 25% above what the street rate is, they stop.
Exactly. You gotta have a certain cap. You have to have a threshold. Correct.
Now, nowadays, I've seen things. There's very little threshold based on what the market's doing, and that's and that's a gift to you guys. But that's going to change again. These are cyclical. It always is. Development's starting to kick back in another 18 to 24 months. You're going to have more competitors, and this utopia that we've created with revenue management is going to get a little harder. But you still do it. But like Jim said, first look at your software. If you don't have a software, get one. I've talked to people who are still doing stuff in a shoebox and no cards. No. You're spending more time and money on that than you would on a software, so get one.
I doubt they're watching this kind of video anyway, so.
Right, yeah, you may not even have internet. But the fact is that, get a software. You can go in there and program the percentage you want, how often it does, how soon it hits the customer after they're there. You can even do it on your standard rates. If your occupancy in a certain unit type gets to be X, and it's at X for 90 days, it will bump up 5%, or you can work those variables in there. But start setting it up, because the automatic part is really the most important part about this. Because I know when you and I started, when we first became, district managers, area managers, whatever it is that you call us then or now, we had to do everything manually. We would literally have to go to a property, print a rent roll, and go through and see, go back and see who we did last month, see who we're going to do this month, and circle and go down. And the problem with that is, number one, it's not efficient. Number two, your managers on site know all of your tenants. And they know they're going to be the first person that gets the phone call when you send out a rent increase letter.
Yep.
So there's going to be a reason why everybody should have a rent increase, whether somebody, just lost their house or somebody lost their job or somebody's in the hospital or, and I'm not saying those aren't valid reasons you can't look at, but what I'm saying is it will be on every one of them if you do it manually and leave it just for that.
Yep.
So if you do it automatic, send it out. And then if there's a problem, somebody calls you or whatever, then you can deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
Correct.
You don't have to sit there and throw the problem in front of you before you even know there's a problem. And that's what will happen if you don't do it automatically.
Yep. It helps keep you being consistent.
Right.
I've seen at times, some places like to do it seasonally, and they do it, either wintertime or in the summertime. But you're leaving so
That's one strategy.
It is one strategy. But again, I'm so much more on the camp of being consistent and doing these automatic rate increases based off length of stay. Just simply because there's so many people that just are getting missed, and when you're doing it like that, there's too many months in between of a rate increase that's being done.
But the other thing is get the money now.
Yeah, leave money on the table.
Now. If you can do it, get it. I mean, like here in Florida, if I can get the rate increase in March, I don't have to wait till June.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, I know nobody wants to come out in summer and in 100-degree weather and get a U-Haul and move it out and do all this stuff. I mean, they don't want to do it in March either. Yep. So, I mean, come on, we're Americans. We don't want to do anything like that.
No, I've heard the argument of, it's 100 degrees outside, they don't want to move, or it's really cold outside, they're not going to want to move. That's why they do it seasonally.
Right.
And this is, I guess, could be a whole other video of auto
increases
versus seasonal. But again, just doing it, rate increases from the way we've done it in all these different sites all across the U.S., it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
Most people
especially now.
Yeah, most of them don't move out. That's the problem. We'll get into overcoming the fears of doing a rate increase. We'll do that as well. But again, I'm definitely on the camp of doing automatic, rate increases.
Yeah, I mean, I did one on a group of people that were there for we kind of touched on this in the last video where we were talking about if somebody's $80 and then now the street rate's $180. Well, bring it up, let them move out if you're full in those units. I mean, I've done that before. I've had people take a $60 a month rent increase because they get upset and they call around. They realize, wow, I'm still below or close to what everybody else is doing. I don't want to move. Now some people will say I'm just going to move out and get rid of my stuff. But then that just opens it up for somebody else to come in there and rent, which they will.
Exactly, and that usually comes to the place when we're coming in and taking over a site that's been mismanaged for a long time.
Right.
They haven't been doing those kind of rate increases like they should have been. So over the course of the years, you got that rent variance that's just way off. So when we're giving examples like that, that's a little out of the ordinary that we just bump up that dramatically.
Oh, it's on a case-by-case basis.
It is, but that's just true to the point.
But you're talking about mass. I mean, even though we go into a property that hasn't had a rent increase, say, in 5 years, and you send out like a 6% or a little over on everybody at the property, say it's 300 or 400 people, even then I still have very few problems.
Oh, yeah. No, exactly.
I mean, with 400 people, you'll get, 15 that might make a comment about it. And then you'll have 5 that are really upset about it, and you deal with those on a case-by-case basis. Yep. Even if you bring the rent increase back on those 5, you still raise the other 395.
Yep, exactly. And I'd like to give more examples of that as well. But I think the major takeaway of this video is just being consistent on your revenue management, on your rent increases, and the best way to do that is to utilize your self-storage software, and it has that built in, and put in those parameters that you're looking for. We've given some examples here of what some of the REITs are doing. And the reason we bring up the REITs like that is, again, they have such a database of samples of all their sites across the U.S. that they've kind of come up with those figures for a reason. They're not just...
Well, I know how Extra Space did it. They told us. I mean, they basically took... And we're going back, 5 years now. So I'm sure those numbers have changed based on what they can get away with in some markets. But if I remember correctly, they took... at the time, I want to say they had 1,200 or 1,500 properties. I can't remember what it was. And I think it was like 1,200 or a little less. And they split them up in divisions, like in areas.
Yeah.
And they did 300, 300, 300 or something like that, or 400, 400, whatever it was.
Sure.
And they tested different scenarios in each of those. and they looked at those scenarios to see, okay, which ones caused the most move outs, and what was the max that we could do to where they took it and didn't move out, and what was too low, and things like that. And that's how they came up with the system that they have, because that's where they found to be the sweet spot in their numbers. Now, in the last 4 years, that's changed. I mean, like I said, we're able to do a lot of things that I've not seen in my career because of the lack of development and supply. But when that changes again, we may have to get back to some of these grassroots types of things of revenue management that worked in the past. It won't be the wild, wild west. But still, if you can do it now, test it. You can test out some at 9. I mean, I've seen some things we've been doing 10, 12% a year. In certain size codes that are very, and they're still paying it, and people are still coming out off the street and getting it at a higher street rate. I mean, we're even upselling the street rate, which is a whole different video, and we'll talk about that. But that, and the more customers you have on autopay, we'll have that. It'll be another video that we'll talk about autopay customers. Autopay customers are great for rent increases. Typically they're less price sensitive than other customers. They don't look at their credit card statement, or they just pay it. They're not looking that you just charge them $6 more.
that's
and I'm not saying be shady. Still send out your notifications. Typically, you have to have a 30-day notification, things like that. But they're less price sensitive. So, and we'll get into that on another video too. But there are things that you should be doing, and there are reasons why. And we went over some of that in the last video. Just do it. Just test it. Even if you don't like it, you can turn it off. But just do it.
So, I think that's the major takeaway then. If do your rate increases, schedule them out automatically, utilize your storage software. It's there for a reason. It's your tool to maximize your efficiency and your income at your site. So
I mean, you're paying for the software. Most of them are monthly now. Get something out of it.
There you go. All right, let's wrap this one up.
All right, you all have a good week.
All right, see ya.
Bye.
Go to 3miledomination.com/call and schedule your free 30-minute marketing tune-up call. I'll give you solid advice you can easily implement with or without us. Until next time.